Alright, so we need to talk about James Bond and the entire franchise because, as you may know, that with James Bond, who is a British action hero, but if you heard the news that recently came out that if Amazon now has control over James Bond and the entire franchise and has complete creative control, and especially for what this means for the franchise and for its future, who will the next James Bond be, and especially if this franchise is in trouble and they're planning to chunk out so much that's gonna make the fans a little less interested. And yeah, that's what I'm gonna do is break down everything that you need to know about this. And so, if you're new, then be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss on any future vids. But now, let's hop right into it. And yes, as you know, with James Bond, who is a very popular British action hero and a spy going on all these missions, especially what this franchise has been built to be for over 60 years. And even if you know every actor that has portrayed this character, I'm talking about like every character from the past, including the popular ones like from Sean Connery, Pierce Brosnan, and even to Daniel Craig. And just out of every single one of those actors, that had to deliver the brilliance and the intelligence to what James Bond has been built to be. And especially if you consider like all those James Bond movies were really popular during that time, and even though it's built on like an action franchise out of any other, of course, like if you know Mission Impossible, you know what I'm talking about. But even with the fact that out of every other action movie franchise, I'm specifically speaking with James Bond and its long-running action franchise, and especially if you know that Michael G. Wilson and Barbara Broccoli were the owners of the franchise, and it's long running for over 60 years, and they had complete control, especially with Metro Golden Mayer has been in charge of like every movie, especially including for Daniel Craig's run. And if you know, like a thing that they were in charge of his last movie and his run No Time to Die, and even specifically so like with those owners that they're now going to be co-owners and departing it and moving on to other products. And now here's what they had to say about it, and they said this: since his theatrical introduction over 60 years ago, James Bond has been one of the most iconic characters in film and entertainment. We are grateful to the late Alvaro Broccoli and Harry Sussman for bringing James Bond to movie theaters around the world, and to Michael G. Wilson and Barbara Broccoli for their unwilling dedication and their role in continuing the legacy of the franchise that is cherished by legions of fans worldwide. We are honored to continue this treasured heritage and look forward to ushering in the next phase of the legendary 007 for audiences around the world. And now, even coming from this article alone, it seems that with Amazon that is now taking over the franchise and will have creative control, and especially as this is what kind of scares me the most, because ever since Daniel Craig's run ended with No Time to Die, and ever since then, over so many years, there have been like fan castings for who be the next James Bond. I'm talking like, and people were saying Henry Cavill or Aaron Taylor Johnson. In fact, I think Aaron Taylor Johnson would make a great James Bond, especially if you've seen his more recent work and his movies, and that dude is ripped in a total action star. But even with Henry Cavill, I can picture him being the next James Bond, especially as we know him as Superman, and especially as he is working with Amazon and MGM Studios on the Warhammer series. And I think that's gonna put them on their good radar to get him on the role as well. But even though, as we all think about it, with Amazon now having creative control, because they can do whatever they want with the James Bond and its entire franchise with 007, they're about to be turning this into a cinematic universe, which I think is a definite bad idea, because especially I think, like, I don't know if this was in the works for a while, because especially if you think about it, out of like every other franchise that has gone to saturate or try to milk out its franchises, especially as they made like spin-offs that like nobody wanted, or especially like if you look at the MCU, or how Disney turned Star Wars into an unusual brand that had the fandom draining, especially like after the sequel trilogy and all those Disney Plus shows that really turned people off with the brand. But even speaking of which, with James Bond, I'm thinking like, how many spin-offs are they going to do that are not going to involve James Bond? Because James Bond is such an iconic action hero, and I think we're going to be expecting like some announcements within the next couple months. I'm talking about with CinemaCon like who be the next James Bond or who the next director might be. But even though that's just like years away, because no decision has been made yet. But I think like we could be getting an official announcement, especially when that day comes, for who will be the next James Bond. That'll be, I think, like we're going to find out and see for how dumb this is. I think like out of any other action franchise, like yeah, they chose James Bond, like especially for what every other actor delivered to the role as the iconic action hero, especially for what James Bond's purpose is to go on missions to take out villains, especially with his gadgets, and especially if you look at Daniel Craig's run, and even with Casino Royale and Skyfall, which are his best work in his run as James Bond, because especially I adore Casino Royale, as it has like a lot of great action sequences, especially out of all those movies that they have great villains, and especially as James Bond has been an iconic franchise. It's like memorable and quotable out of all those movies, and even with No Time to Die, which I thought was a good installment, it definitely ended Daniel Craig's run on a very good note. But I think like, what are they going to do in the future, like with these spin-offs? I mean, I think like they could like look at any other side character that was on James Bond's side, even if it was like Pierce Brosnan or Daniel Craig or those other side characters that like got their chance to shine, but never really got their story told. But I think within the universe of James Bond, I think like they could like make any other type of spin-off. I don't know for what the next James Bond movie will be. I think sure that's like years away now, but I mean, because especially like even with everyone's reactions to this, and I don't know if you guys noticed, but even with Jeff Bezos put out this tweet, especially after Amazon had bought and is now going to be taking over the future and franchise of James Bond. He said, "Who do you think the next James Bond will be?" And that's how his response was, especially for how everyone responded to this. Like, I'm pretty sure like it's pretty funny for how people look at this. But again, I think this might be a good thing, or possibly could be a good thing if they choose every project carefully for how they want to tell the story within the world of James Bond, because it's iconic franchise. Because especially if you make like countless spin-offs and try to milk the franchise, and also I mean even talk about with Fast and Furious. I mean those had like unnecessary sequels that nobody asked for, and that franchise, I don't know when that world is wrapping up soon. But even with James Bond, like, because I'm at the thing like with every type of project that Amazon is going to be charging out, with every other TV show or movie, or even a movie that's not going to involve with James Bond, I think like that's gonna be having so many problems. I can't think of James Bond being turned into a cinematic universe where we have like it's just suddenly gonna build up all these side characters to even come together and to form like something. What else is in store? I think like it's gonna be a downgrading the quality of the franchise. I'm talking about with oversaturation and making like so many projects that aren't even connected to the franchise. But I'm definitely thinking like it could be in a way, unless they do this right. I mean, gosh, I don't know, man. Like there's like so many possibilities for what Amazon can do with the franchise, and now it's officially bought by them, and they have creative control. It's like no one else's responsibilities of to like take notes, but this is just them. Again, it's a company overall. I'm pretty sure we'll get updates and announcements on within the upcoming months. I mean, I'm expecting CinemaCon, and I don't know for who will be the next James Bond, who will be overseeing the next couple of movies. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see on that as well. But that's gonna do it for this video. Just let me know in the comments below, and what were your thoughts on this, with James Bond being bought by Amazon and overseeing its entire franchise, and who would you like to see be the next James Bond? Just let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to notifications for future videos, and also follow all my social medias all linked down below. And with that, I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.